after changing my voice. I'm going to have to use this microphone that's not so good because the other microphone is a pain to use and it often has worse background noises, background problems, what have you. So this video is about their argument that Africans are trying to replace white people. Now, probably everyone who is watching this video is going to think, hey, that's stupid. Why would they think that? And it is stupid for them to think that that is some kind of plan that's taking place here. Now, first of all, I'd like to point out that God wants everyone to give me my rightful place. But do I think they're smart enough to do it? No, not even close. I'm the master of assessing people's intelligence, and I do not believe that the governing class or the masses of people are smart enough to give me my rightful place, not for a minute. I know people very well, and I'm convinced that they're not smart enough. I have no long-term plan to take over the world or to replace white people. I'm even part white. And we see that in the news sometimes they say things that are connected to what's going on with the psychological operation against me, right? Operation Mockingbird, Project Mockingbird of the CIA, right? They were mocking the Falcon, the King of Kings. They're mocking me. In the Bible, when they talk about mockers, what is the most significant application of mocking in the Bible, biblically speaking? And that is mocking God and mocking Christ. And I'm Christ. You know, there's a bunch of satanic cults everywhere. The word place is lace, right? To lace the food, to fume. Or fume is a plain word for fume. Position is poison is scrambled, what have you. Open and shut. What can anyone say after that? Pretty straightforward. In Egyptian mythology, Set is said to testify against himself. The word whites is a play on words for wise set. The word waste is way set. The word while is similar to the word white. And you have the L and you have the T, which is the feminine suffix. Part of why they wore wigs when they're colonizing. I'm not trying to make fun of white people here. I'm trying to kick the ballistics. Part of the situation is that their system is a system of mockers that makes fun of themselves and everyone else. So when you explain what's going on, it automatically makes them look bad because what they're doing is very, very bad, very deranged. It's like Roman history. If you were to explain it honestly, it makes white people look bad, it makes Romans look bad, makes people who are token minorities rolling with them look bad, makes LGBT people look bad, you name it. But those are the facts. So no offense to anybody other than the offense that God intended. So when we look at the screen, we see the pictures on the screen. One of them says that there's this deadly route from Africa to Europe, and they're concerned, right, with them replacing people. And of course, anytime there's a threat to somebody, they should be concerned, but they should look at exactly what's going on and not play into white supremacists' hands, right? It goes without saying, right? The other one talks about the international rules-based order. It's from Al Jazeera or something. So at the same time they're talking about the international rule-based order, after they've been talking about New World Order for decades, mind you, and longer than that, really. They're talking about these various replacement theories that have some truth to it. There are Jewish leftists and right-wing people as well who are breeding with white people, and they're using their network to place them in certain locations, right? Jews have a lot of money. This is not a secret. And when people convert to Judaism or marry a Jew, they tend to help them out. When people praise them, you know, and kiss up to them, they tend to help them out, right? It's pretty straightforward. So there's some truth to that. How true it is, that's not what this video is about. When it comes to the route from Africa to Europe, right? There's some danger there, right? Some of these various people, Africans, Muslims, what have you, they come from Africa and they go to Europe and they cause some trouble. Now they do other things as well. They help the economy, they do whatever they do, but there's some threat there. But why is that happening? Obviously, we all know about, you know, geopolitics, right? Neocolonialism, okay, exploitation, blood diamonds, all these kind of scarce metals, all these resources that they have been taken from Africa and causing all kinds of problems with. We all know this, right? No mystery. So after they sabotaged Africa, then they come there after they've been fighting over, you know, Western philosophies, right? Communism, capitalism, okay? They're fighting the proxy wars of the West and China and wherever else. And they go to Europe, and there's some trouble that's been occurring there. And London has seen a drastic demographic shift and so on and so forth. I'm just laying down, what's going on here. Now, let's look at this thing carefully here. Is it fair to use that to insult God and his son? No. On top of that, what did I ever do to you people to deserve to be treated this way? All I've ever done is the right thing. I've walked in the light. Why do you treat me with such contempt? Regardless if it's ritual or not, should you follow in these ancient rituals from Dionysus, the ritual madness crowd, and persecute the Son of God, or should you catch your mistake? And to some degree, we have common ancestors. I'm part white. And everyone on this planet, despite what you might think with recent discoveries, everyone on this planet comes from Africa. They found some kind of skulls in Asia somewhere. I believe it's China or something. But that doesn't change the abundance of evidence of human migrations that paint the picture very clearly, and the fact that these are the types of people who lie, when it comes to who released the information, who's released the study and the findings and so on and so forth. These are people who are Eurocentrics who have been itching to turn people against black people for a long time and to turn people against each other. And things have been heating up with America and China, the West and China in general. And lo and behold, here comes this finding that would kind of make it harder for black and Chinese and Asian communists to get along in theory. That's not a coincidence. The propaganda wing of the West did a study with their allies abroad, their global allies, and they came to the conclusion that when it comes to their global racket and the game that they're playing and how they slice the pie, that they wanted that finding, that so-called discovery to occur. Okay, even if you reject that, because we're kind of going off on a tangent a little bit, let's return to the topic at hand. Even if you reject that, we all come from Africa. Should someone from Somalia say to me, hey, I don't want you to say it's a Royal African Falcon Martial Art Order because it favors you. Now, first of all, I've never even been to Africa. For me to use that word, it seems to favor people who live in Africa, and who have been there for a long time and so on and so forth, right? But it doesn't. Why? Because I am the top martial artist, not them. Because I have more character than they do. And it goes back to focus, moral intensity. Proverbs 4:18, the path of the righteous is like the morning sun shining out ever brighter to the full light of day. Now, I'm not boasting and bragging. I'm just kicking the facts here. It's even called kicking the facts. It strikes you as true because it is true. It's even called strikes you as true. Okay. The Spirit, right? The Spirit of God to spear something. Does that argument favor some black African bushmen carrying a spear? I don't walk around carrying a spear. Some people do. They carry a stick, spear, what have you. No, it favors me. Why? Because I'm the top martial artist ever possible. So why, when I say it's a Royal African Falcon Martial Art Order, do they respond by taking this shot at me? By saying, hey, these guys want to replace the white man too. That's ridiculous, right? That's unbelievable. I get treated with contempt. Now you might argue, well, how do you know it's aimed at you? Because people in psychological operation units have admitted that it's aimed at me. They say, yes, that's aimed at you. They have told me flat out that's aimed at me. But it's a good question because it could be the coincidence of the year. But we also see a pattern with what comes up in my feed on YouTube, what have you. We see a pattern, and I've proven that a million times over. I have playlists, one on this very channel, that prove my point in that regard. I'm going way over time here. I was supposed to keep my videos to 5 minutes. I decided to let myself go over. So let's just wrap this up here. So why does the white man have a Eurocentric model? Why doesn't he just say, hey, we all come from Africa and the white man did this? Why does he want you to think in terms of white people and to think that indigenous people, especially Africans, are magically subhuman or something and insignificant? They even try to take credit from the Egyptians when it comes to the pyramids. Even though buildings are just buildings, it's the martial art foundation that makes the pyramids important. Other than that, they're just a large building. So you're the first one to build a large building. So what? So the first person to climb Mount Everest think he's important too? These things are peanuts. But martial arts, they're lifestyles, they're sacred. They come from God in a certain way that transcends everything else. Martial is marital scramble, deny Christ and the bridegroom. The champion, Psalm 19, the top martial artist. So the issue that the white man has is that he doesn't deserve to be seen as number one or to, have people behave like he's number one, what have you. No offense to anybody. Just kicking the ballistics here. Now, why is that? Because he doesn't have the character to say that even though he's never been to Africa, just like I've never been to Africa, and I'm mulatto, I'm not all black, such a thing is possible. Just because he's never been to Africa, like I've never been to Africa, doesn't mean that if he deserved it, that he couldn't make a case that would show that he deserved it, right? But he doesn't deserve it. So he says, think of it in terms of being white. That's why I have to say that term, the Royal African Falcon Martial Art Order, because it levels the playing field and gives credit where it's due. Because when you think of it in terms of we're all from Africa, again, I've never even been to Africa, mind you, then it's character that determines the order in society. But when you slip into a state of ritual madness, a Setian state, a Zeus state, an illusion, rape by deception, Jupiter and Zeus in ball state of mind, where you start thinking in terms of the concrete jungle illusion and construct, then you end up doing what the wisest and the best, what the deepest people that ever lived would see as the worst thing ever. Say you're an attractive single female, you shun the Son of God. It reminds me of the song Water Runs Dry by Boyz II Men. What did he say was the biggest mistake of their lives, right? It's letting the water run dry. Drink from my well, letting the water run dry, missing out on true love and on the essence of true love. You end up making the biggest mistake in mistakes. You cheat me out of my right to lead. Why? Because you think in terms of a Western church order or an Islamic Semitic mosque order or a Semitic Jewish order or a white Ashkenazi Jewish order or an LGBT order or a Greek society order, a college frat order, a Freemason order, instead of thinking in terms of a Royal African Falcon top martial artist order, morally precise, heterosexual, transcendent, instead of seeing things for what they really are. Morality is a play on words for more reality. You miss the point. The word point is even a phrase, it's when scrambled, it's an anagram for in top. In top. The pinnacle. Recently, Donald Trump had said that he thinks that the pinnacle of the American spirit is a football game. That's crazy, right? He said it. You can imagine a lot of people cheering him on and say, hey, he thinks that football at its best is the pinnacle of the American spirit and American values. A mere game. There's a bunch of corporate psychopaths that think being a corporate psychopath is what life is magically about. A more deranged and evil game. So what is the pinnacle of all spirits? Well, all spirits that are divine is God. When we compare the pinnacle of all spirits, what goes beyond, what is the thing in a spirit besides God that goes beyond everything else? It's the Royal African Falcon top martial arts. Now, seeing how we're all from Africa, which means we all have ancestors from Africa. We all have ancestors from Africa. Why do you seek to cheat me out of my rightful place? For your race, but before there were white people, there were black people and African people who would eventually change into white people, as far as anyone knows. Well, some of them at least, right? So we have common ancestors in Africa. And they're older, right? They say respect your elders. They're older than your white ancestors in Europe. Then why aren't you assigning them a respect? If you went through a time machine, would you tell your ancient African ancestors that you don't care that they're from Africa? All you care is they look different than you, and you want to play a stupid game where you pretend to honor your races and your families, but you're going to leave them out. And on top of it, because you want to cheat the most righteous person that ever lived. Now, is that a heritage worth having? Is that something you should commit to? Or should you catch your mistake?